Good morning. The Chief Executive will first say a few words, and then there will be a short photo-taking session, and afterwards the floor will be open to questions. First, the Chief Executive, please. Good morning. The 20th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party is now ongoing in Beijing. 2 days ago, on the 16th of October, the Secretary General, Mr. Xi Jinping, gave a report to the Congress on behalf of the Central Committee of the CCP. And in the 20th report, there are many important points to note. And I'm most encouraged by the fact that one country, two systems, and Hong Kong were referred to in many paragraphs. That shows that the central authorities attach great importance to the Hong Kong and its high degree of autonomy. Mr. Xi gave a verbal report at the opening of the Congress, and he focused on the key points of the report. And I have studied the entire report, in particular, on many of the paragraphs with reference to Hong Kong. For example, in taking stock of the work in the past 5 years, there's mentioned that there is need to further deepen the development of the Greater Bay Area. There is need to support Hong Kong's economic development, ensure stability. And then in another paragraph, there is a section on insisting on one country system and improving the institution. And then there is a need to promote economic development, improve people's livelihood issues, and address the deep-seated conflicts in Hong Kong and also Macau SAR. And we need to leverage on the advantages of the Hong Kong and Macau SAR. For example, for our position as an international financial center, aviation center, shipping hub, cultural exchange hub, and so on, we need to have further cooperation and opening up with the mainland, and there should be more interaction. So this is, in fact, the 8 centers that Hong Kong should develop into under the 14th five-year plan. And also, there's mention that in the past the system for implementing one country system was flawed, and then we moved from chaos to order, and now we're going into the new era going to go from order to prosperity. So we need to insist on the full implementation of one country, two systems. We need to have a mechanism to enforce the various laws, and then we need to ensure the high degree of autonomy in Hong Kong. At the same time, we need to insist on the executive-less institution, and then we should leverage on the patriotic forces in Hong Kong and the Macau SAR and so on. And then the Secretary General mentioned 3 long-term, that is a long-term implementation, one country, two systems, the long-term maintaining of the capitalist system in Hong Kong, and the long-term maintaining of the unique position and advantages of Hong Kong. So all these have been included in the 20th Congress report. Now, since the return of sovereignty to the mainland, Hong Kong went through the most trying times in the past few years, and there were also various other trying times as well. For example, the COVID-19 pandemic, the turbulence, and so on. And then there are various measures to improve the law and order and the legal system here, and also Hong Kong. Therefore, Hong Kong has emerged from chaos to order, and now we're moving from order to prosperity. Now, we are now embarking on a new chapter for further prosperity. And this is a new phase for Hong Kong to have emerged from chaos to order and from order to prosperity. For today, Hong Kong is at a new starting point in its history. So this is a critical time for us to start a new chapter for Hong Kong. Now, in the 20th National Congress report, there are many areas that refer to Hong Kong and Macau. So it is an action guideline for us. And then there is also discerning discussion on the implementation of one country, two systems, Hong Kong. It helps to promote stability here. Now, the report reminds me of the important speech given by President Xi Jinping on the 1st of July. Four must and four expectations were proposed, and this has become the blueprint for our governance. And in the Chief Executive I'll be announcing policies to improve people's livelihood, promote Hong Kong's economic development, and also on housing and land issues, and also on improving our competitiveness. I'm going to deliver my first chief policy address tomorrow. I know you all very interested in that. So I brought along a copy of the policy address so you could take photos of it. Now you see I have picked the color green for the cover of the policy address because green represents hope, vitality, and harmony and stability. Under the different measures of the under the policy address, I will be announcing various measures. There will be a chapter on a list of the measures and policies, so that you'll be able to follow up on the progress of these measures and policies under the policy address. Perhaps now we could allow journalists to take pictures. Yes, the Chief Executive, please go further to the front. It's almost time. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Executive. Okay, now I welcome questions. So the floor is now open to questions. Please use the microphone to ask the questions. And before you ask the questions, please identify your organization. And please limit yourself to 2 questions. So the one in blue on the left, please.
Please check the mic. Use another one.
Tony from South China Morning Post. I have two questions for you. The first question is that a group of Hong Kong activists staged a protest over the weekend in Manchester. And one of them, a Hong Kong activist, was reportedly dragged into the Chinese consulate in Manchester and was allegedly beaten up by some people. So some British politicians demanded an apology from the Chinese ambassador and said that the incident was concerning. So are you aware of this attack? Would you condemn the violence attack and urge the British authorities to bring the attackers to justice? That's the first one. The second one is on the policy address. Would talent, public health, and national security be the highlights of the policy address? Because President Xi, in his Party Congress report, also mentioned the importance of enhancing China and Hong Kong's national security capabilities. But the Hong Kong government recently said the bill won't be submitted to LegCo this year. So is there a need to revisit the decision? Today is also the 1,000th
I think you've asked more than 2 questions, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I trust that the local governments will deal with the case in accordance with the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations and the local law. And I will make no more comment because I don't have the full details of the case. As regards the policy address, I thank you for your interest in the policy address. I will have to request you all to have a little bit of patience because you only have to wait for 1 day when I will be telling you every bit of it. But as regard national security law, we have a duty, of course, under basic law to enact local legislation so as to fulfill the requirement of Article 23. And I have already said last time when there was a question raised from the floor, I do want the Article 23 proposal to cover situations which are fast developing in this complex geopolitical situation. So I would like our proposal to cover a very wide range of research into the legislations that are available for reference in connection with means and tactics of protecting national security so as to ensure that the final proposal will be able to deal with all the anticipated situation and circumstances. It will be an effective legislation so that we don't have to try to make further improvement to what we intend to propose.
Next question. This reporter on the right-hand side at the back. I'm from Now TV. Good morning, Chief Executive. It seems that the government is not going forward with 0+0. Is it possible to resume quarantine-free travel with the mainland after the 20th National Congress? And about the medical exemption certificate for COVID-19 vaccine, will the emergency regulations ordinance be invoked to revoke the validity of the certificates? Have you sought advice from the Department of Justice? About the medical exemption certificates, it is sub judice, so it's not for me to comment now. In terms of the SAR government's fight against the epidemic, we resort to every means to keep the epidemic at bay. And this is our goal. So any measure rolled out will carry the objective of reducing infections, and we appeal to the public to follow our rules and regulations. Because if the rules and the regulations are not followed, our system will be affected and everybody will be affected as well. That is why we take a serious view and will follow up on violations. And definitely the SAR government will act in accordance with the law. We will take follow-up action once the court has made the decision. Meanwhile, after introducing the 0+3 arrangements, as we have received a positive response with more social activities, with a more positive sentiment in the community, and with more economic activities. And we also see more and more international events being arranged and held in Hong Kong. So with this positive result, I understand that the public is looking forward to more relaxation measures. And meanwhile, we keep in view the epidemic situation and continue to roll out new measures. In fact, last week we announced certain relaxation of certain social distancing measures to create room for more social and economic activities. We're working in this direction, but meanwhile, we need to keep in view the epidemic situation. Let me give you some figures. After introducing 0+3 arrangement, we have more vibrancy in the community. We have more social and economic activities. For airport arrivals, for inbound and outbound travelers in October, on average, this figure increased by 1.5 times comparing to that in September. And I think we're all interested in inbound travelers. Apart from people traveling abroad, inbound travelers also rose by 1.4 times. And I believe that the number of travelers, inbound or outbound, will continue to increase. I understand that the airline companies have also increased their recruitment effort to boost the capacity. So we should be confident with more travelers coming in and going out via the airport. We should continue to have regard to these figures. Now, for example, there's been an increase in the number of imported cases. Before 0+3, the total, the percentage of imported cases account for 2.7%. Now it's 5%. And the number of imported cases has gone up by 2 times. Now the impact, 1.5 times. Now if we compare the figures this week with that of last week, the number of severe cases rose by 28%, and the number of deaths increased by 20%. So we need to keep track of these figures. That's why I emphasize we take prudent and pragmatic steps in deciding our strategy on fighting the epidemic. The other point is we all know that a new subvariant has emerged in Hong Kong. And as the matter stands at the moment, it seems that it does not cause more severe illnesses despite higher transmissibility. But there is still an uncertain factor. We're not sure whether there are other subvariants. And when we designed the 0+3 arrangements, we considered that the epidemic trend should go down, but now it's gone up to 1.3%. And we also need to have regard to the fact that there's been an increase in the number of severe cases and fatalities. An orderly approach should be taken so that we take things step by step in resuming activities and further open up with the world. I hope we all understand. I've told you our direction and our objectives, and that is why we should all work together. And let me stress once again that vaccination is the best protection. We can all chip in to build immunity barrier in the community. And I also stress that we should follow rules and regulations for your own good and for the good of 7 million people in Hong Kong. In the interest of time, we'll take the last question.
The lady to the right.
Dear Mr. Chief Executive, a reporter from Dodo News. And thanks for your explanation about the quarantine policies. Many people are looking forward to the pre-departure quarantine. So how about the progress? And any improvement in the discussion with mainland and border crossing? And given that the government has no intention of implementing 0+0 for the time being, so will the existing social distancing measures be further relaxed, such as the government said last week it was considering relaxing the social gathering restriction to 12 persons, and is there any update? And
thank you for your questions.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We have been working hard to discuss with our mainland counterparts on progressing on materializing the concept of pre-departure quarantine. We have a number of discussions. We have talked about standards, and we know that the standards are actually set by the authorities, which would require things that need to be done, including some closed-loop arrangement. We are working to iron out some challenges, because obviously we have to agree on, for example, the CT standard. We have to agree on the arrangement so that when a person having gone through the pre-departure quarantine arrangement, then he will be considered having fulfilled the 7+3 arrangement. These things we are working and we're ironing out some areas where we need to adjust. But the closed-loop arrangement, of course, is one area which we have to look at realistically as to how we can satisfy. The second thing is we are very conscious of the need of ensuring there will be no risk that will be given to our mainland authorities because we know the anti-COVID situation in the mainland as well. But my thinking is, for anybody who has gone through this pre-departure quarantine, because the standard has been made in accordance with the mainland standard, so there will be no doubt that they will be posing extra risks. And then the only thing we need to do is ensure that they are also transported to the mainland in a closed-loop way. But of course, this is a new arrangement. It has been tested before, so there will be things that we need to discuss in detail. The senior officials of both governments are taking part. On my side, we have the Chief Secretary. On the mainland side, they have Vice Mayor and Mayor to take part. So we are very committed to trying to work out a solution. And also, what I'm trying to do in Hong Kong is to ensure that on the one hand, I will be controlling the COVID situation so that we will be reducing serious and death cases, and at the same time ensuring that the hospital service can function, can cope. And then we allow society to go about their normal activities because we are conscious of the fact that Hong Kong has to maintain connected both to the world and to the mainland. We are working towards both goals at the same time. Of course, I will have to wait for further ideas from our mainland counterparts so that we can really work out on the details. Thank you very much.
記者會到呢度，多謝大家。
Thank you. That's the end of the press conference.